What's up, you sexy beast? My name is Benji Bruce, and we are going to get going with this whole webinar thing. We're just going to talk about how to get paid speaking gigs. Now, I'm going to get straight to the point in terms of everything that you have to do. So let me kind of show you the screen here. So honestly, this is the entire process for getting paid speaking gigs. So what we're going to cover is essentially just getting systems set up, finding over 100 events every single day, and then getting booked consistently. I want to warn you that I'm going to move fast. We don't have time to go slow. I'm going to move fast. So you better keep up. You better take some notes, do what you got to do. I hate the webinars that take forever to get to the point. So the whole thing of who I am, I mean, who cares who I am, to be honest? But real quick, I hate the webinars where they talk about themselves for 20, 30 minutes. I'm going to tell you in about 30 seconds. Basically, I mean, I've done gigs all over the world, Aflac, AAA, like all kinds of companies, Remax. I mean, a ton of them on TV. So, I mean, it's what I did my entire life, never had a job. So I'm going to show you the entire process in terms of how I get hired at these corporate events, colleges, and all that sort of stuff. I mean, we get speakers booked on stages consistently, whether like Bob here, he did like 200 grand and stuff. I mean, not saying that you're going to do it or anything, but got to do a disclaimer. We got all kinds of speakers just booked on stages consistently, like Will and Betsy. I mean, Elio, like all kinds of Alex. Another guy that I'll probably talk about later. I think I have him in here. Dave. Dave did like $250,000 and stuff. So honestly, we get speakers booked on stages. I mean, I learned how to do it a long time ago. I learned the process here. Then I started teaching other people. So we're just going to get straight to the point in terms of what it is you need to do. First thing I want to tell you, and at first I wasn't going to include this because I thought, oh, this is boring, but I have to include it because there's so many speakers out there who struggle to get on stages because they don't understand the different types of speakers that are out there. And there are mainly two different types of speakers. There's a keynote speaker and a platform speaker. They're two different types of speakers. So the keynote speakers, they're focused more on getting paid gigs. This is where you do outreach and you do AdWords to get the gigs. These are the speakers who speak at companies and colleges. So if you want to be a keynote speaker, this is where, or if you want to get paid to speak, you are now a keynote speaker. You are basically either speaking at colleges or you're speaking at companies. There's basically nobody else who's going to pay you. Like absolutely nobody. I mean, high schools maybe, but they don't really pay much. So I don't count them. I'm like, nah, you guys are too broke. We're not going to count you. So understand that in order for you to be a paid speaker, you're a keynote speaker, you're basically doing outreach in terms of like reaching out, cold email, cold calling, or you're doing AdWords, Google AdWords, in terms of like when people type in motivational speaker in Las Vegas, you pop up. You're not doing any type of content creation. You don't have a podcast, no book. Like you don't need any of that stuff. Absolutely none. The keynote speaker gets paid to be there. And so your presentation is the product. You're not selling these online courses, none of that stuff. You're not doing Facebook ads, Instagram ads. You're not building the list like that. It's a completely different business. So in fact, before I, all right, let me move on. I was about to say something, but let me move on real quick. So that is essentially a keynote speaker. Now there's the platform speaker. The platform speaker is the guy who's building a personal brand. He's a speaker who's doing the content and the advertising. He's a speaker who's speaking at conferences, and they're almost always unpaid every single time, unless you are literally like one of the top celebrity type speakers. Your ass is not getting paid at a conference. I can guarantee you that. So there's a difference between a keynote speaker and a platform speaker. If you do not understand the difference, you will have a hard time making any money in the industry because you're going to wonder why you're doing all these things, but you're not generating any revenue. It's like speakers who say, okay, I want to get on stage. Let me finish my book. So I'm the expert. Then they finish the book. They realize where all the paid gigs at. And so if you don't understand the difference between the two, you're going to end up doing the wrong daily activities to accomplish a goal and like just the wrong thing. It's very similar to fighting. Okay. So in fighting, the sports area of fighting, there's boxing and then there's MMA or boxing, UFC, whatever the hell. So boxing and MMA. Okay. They're both considered fighting. But if you want to be an MMA guy, then you will not practice boxing. Or you're going to practice boxing, but you will not do it in the same way. You're going to have all these other skills and techniques that you're going to learn, jiu-jitsu, judo, and also wrestling and all sort of stuff if you want to be really great at MMA. On the other hand, if you want to be great at boxing, you're going to be practicing several different things. So even though they're both fighting, and they're both considered fighting sports. They're two completely different things. The same goes with your keynote speaking or your speaking business. A keynote speaker and a platform speaker are two different things. They look the same, but they're very, very different. And if you don't get this from the very get-go, you're going to end up struggling just trying to build your business in the long term. So you have to decide, like, which one do you want to do? Like, do you want to be a paid keynote speaker, or do you want to build your personal brand, the platform speaker, where you're focusing on like writing your book, podcast content, all that sort of stuff? So which one do you want to do first? Okay. So that's the first thing. Now I'm going to talk about, like, this whole webinar, this whole video is all about getting paid gigs. So that's all I'm going to talk about. How do you get a paid gig? So let's get into this again. So now that I kind of explained the difference there, you have to think in terms of how do people hire speakers. So if you want to get paid, you first think about the process people go through to pay a speaker. So the first thing people do is they say, who do I know? So if they're sitting there thinking, okay, we're going to hire a speaker for our Google annual employee event, and then someone's in charge of the whole thing, they think to themselves, well, who do I know? Who have I seen before? What speaker have I seen that we know is going to be really great at this event? Who do I know? If they can't think of somebody, then they say, who do you know? AKA their employees or colleagues. They're saying, like, hey, all right, so our annual employee event, I mean, hey John, do you know of anybody? Have you seen any speakers, like anyone that'd be perfect for the event? So they go, who do you know? If none of those work, if the who do I know doesn't work, they can't think of anybody, and then other people can't think of anybody in terms of speakers, then they go to the internet. They finally do an internet search. They say, okay, well, let's type in motivational speakers in Las Vegas, leadership speakers in Las Vegas, sales speakers in Las Vegas, whatever it is they're trying to go after. They type that into the internet, whether it's Google, whether it's LinkedIn, whatever it is, but now they start typing stuff into the internet. That is the process that they go through. Who do I know? Who do you know? And then an internet search. So the way speakers get hired are these three things. What you're ultimately trying to do is you're trying to get yourself inserted into one of those three areas. So if you can get yourself, when they start thinking, who do I know? And you can pop up in their mind at that moment, you've won. Or the second best is when they go to a colleague and they're like, hey man, who do you know? If you can pop up in that person's mind, then bam, you've won. And the final version is if you can pop up when they type in motivational speaker in Las Vegas or whatever, if you pop up there, then you've won. So those are the three main stages that people go through in order to hire a speaker. So you really need to know this in order for you to actually get hired from the very get-go. Now, a lot of you've been trying to create content. You've been trying to write a book. You've been trying to find an agent to book gigs for you. There's a lot of things that you've been doing, like the content, video, podcast, all that sort of stuff, writing a book, finding an agent to book gigs for you. None of it works to get these paid gigs. And the reason it doesn't work is because, once again, the end goal of getting a paid gig is very different than building a personal brand. Nowadays, everyone keeps hearing about create content. It's this shiny new object that people are seeing. They think they have to do it in order to actually get a paid gig. I do not have a book. I still do not have a book. I'm sitting here. I was able to get $30,000 gigs without a single book. I was able to get companies like Affleck, all these companies to hire me without a book. I didn't create any type of content. The only content I created was a video testimonial of the people who hired me. So after they hired me, I'd be like, hey, tell me how great I am. Just go ahead. Say it again. Okay. So that's the only type of content that I created to get hired. Because once again, the process is very different if you want to get on stages. So a lot of speakers are struggling because they don't know what to do on a day-to-day basis. I'm about to give you some very, very detailed tactics in terms of what it is you need to do. And I'm telling you, this is simply what you need to do. It may be too advanced for some people. Like, I may kind of go over some people's heads. If that's the case, just pause the video or whatever, watch it a million times if you want. But what I'm about to show you is going to be like, I mean, it's not really, really advanced, but people don't do it for some reason. But that, whatever, you're just going to see, okay? So let's get back to it. So, I mean, all that stuff, it doesn't work. You can try all you want. I mean, like I say, you can try it, but trust me, it's not going to work. The right way to get booked is the hard way. So I know a lot of speakers, and this, I think this happens to most speakers. They want to find an agent to book gigs for them. You are lazy as hell if that's you. I think damn near every speaker has probably done this in the beginning of their career. They're thinking to themselves, well, I can find someone to book gigs for me. I'll give them a commission, 20, 25%. You know what? I'm generous. I'll give them 30%. And then all of a sudden they can't find an agent to book any gigs for them. And so this happens to pretty much everybody. You got to ask yourself, well, if you take a good look at yourself in terms of why it is you're doing that, it's because your ass is lazy. You do not know how to get a gig booked. So you're thinking, well, let me find someone else to do all the work for me and let me reap all the benefits. So there's a very big difference between hiring somebody, giving them the system, saying, here's our documents, here's how you use a CRM, here's how you do this, here's how you contact, do the email templates like this. There's a very big difference between doing that versus saying, hey, can you just book gigs for me and I'll give you commission? I don't know how to book gigs, but if you just book them for me, I mean, I'm a great speaker. I got a great story to tell. There's a very big difference. The speakers on this side who want someone to book gigs for them just lazy and they're unwilling to admit it. That is why they will stay stuck. That is why they won't actually get booked on a stage. What I'm going to show you is going to involve a CRM. It's going to involve outreach. It's going to involve all that sort of stuff in terms of like how you really get booked on a stage. So it's really, really important that you don't do what most speakers do. You got to understand that the right way is the hard way. Speakers, they don't want to do this stuff because it's really, really hard to do, but this is how you actually get booked. So let's continue here. Let's see. So, and I'll be honest here. So most of you will quit. That's just a simple fact because you think you work hard at this moment. Okay. I know a lot of you are looking at this and you think you work hard. You're sitting there and, you want agents to book gigs for you, that you have like bad execution or just no execution whatsoever. You're like, I got to finish my book first. And there's all sorts of things that are popping up. And so you just got to understand, it's like you got the shiny object syndrome, but I'll be straight up with most of you watching this. You will flat out quit. I know I'm supposed to be motivational, all that sort of stuff, but most people do not understand how hard running a business is and building a business. When I started, man, I wish I would have freaking recorded a video of when I started, what I was doing. You have no idea in terms of like stuff that you truly have to do. A lot of people, they have bad execution. They have no execution. They don't do it consistently. They give up after a week. They're like, I've been sending cold emails and it's not working. I'm like, well, how many emails have you sent? I sent 10 of them. What? Come here, man. Give me my baby powder. Okay. Come here, man. So it's one of those things where most people, they don't have the ambition that they think they do. They see other people with the ambition. They fantasize about the ambition. They fantasize an end result, but they don't actually, when you actually have to do the work, the fantasy becomes a reality, and the reality is emotionally based. Meaning you're sitting there, you're working on stuff, you're getting frustrated as all hell because the CRM isn't working. Oh, the email stuff isn't working. You're getting frustrated. Oh, it's boring as all hell because you're sitting there doing cold emails all day, every day. You're just like, so like a lot of people don't anticipate the emotional aspect, which is why they end up quitting. I see it a lot. It's like a gang load, like a ton of freaking speakers. So, Yeah. I'm not going to keep talking about that, but just understand that most of you, just straight up, most of you will quit because you just don't understand how hard it is. There's so many people out there who keep saying like, and I blame some of the gurus. They're like, get a booked gig, get a $10,000 speaking gig or a $5,000 speaking gig in 30 days with our program. And I'm like, dude, come on, man. And so, I kind of blame on some of the gurus, but I'm just going to warn you right now, it's hard. I mean, it's just that hard. And so if you're scared, you shouldn't be doing it anyway. You shouldn't be building any damn business if you're scared in terms of how hard stuff is. So can you guess the right way? Based on what I just told you, like some of the stuff I just told you, can you guess the right way? And what I got here is a story time, Rich, the business card and the phone book. So it's two things with my friend Rich. So I started out as an entertainer, right? As like doing mentalism, mind reading shows. And what I would do is I would go to restaurants. I perform at the restaurants. I would go up to the table. I'd be like, hey, would you like to see a damn miracle? I wouldn't say exactly like that, but very similar. Like, hey, would you like to see a miracle? They're like, oh, miracle, huh? Yeah, show us something. So what happened is I showed this guy and his friends some stuff. They were like, oh my goodness. And then at the end, the guy gave me his card and he's like, yeah, give me a call sometime. This was before I was like really business oriented, but I had a friend, Rich, who is very, very business oriented. He was booking more gigs than me at higher price than me, everything. So I went to him. I was like, hey, Rich, so this dude gave me his business card, told me to hit him up. What do I say? He was like, okay, give me the card. So he just grabs a card, picks up his phone, just calls the guy right there and then throws him on speaker. And I'm like, oh, what? And so he throws him on. I'm like, what are you going to say? He's like, I don't know yet. So the guy answers. He's like, hey, it's Rondi. He's like, friend Rich. He's like, hey, Rondi, yeah, you just saw my guy Benji Bruce. He was at the Rock Bottom restaurant the other last week. What'd you think of him? Oh, he was great. Yeah, the guy's great. Okay, cool. Yeah. Do you guys have any events coming up where you guys want to bring in some entertainment or anything like that? Oh, yeah. Actually, maybe my kid's party is coming up. She's turning 5, and yeah, I mean, we could bring them in for that. Oh no, my friend Rich. He's oh no. You seen Benji? You seen what this guy can do? He doesn't do kids parties. You got to bring him in for the big guns. You want to bring him in for the people that you really want to impress. Any type of big company events. That's when you want to bring Benji. And I've seen this guy have 50 people just surrounded by a salt shaker, just absolutely blown away by what he's doing with a single salt shaker. You got to bring him in what you really, and he's sitting there talking me up. I'm like, God damn. And then eventually I got the gig booked. Like he booked me the gig. And I was like, wow, okay. And then maybe like a week after that, I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, I know I need to learn all the business stuff. And I'm thinking like, okay, I got to get good on the phone. Like this dude, Rich, he's good as shit on the phone. Like, my goodness. And so it's like something out of a movie. And then one day we're sitting there talking. I'm like, well, I mean, like, what's the process though? Like, how are you getting booked? Like, what's the process? And so he picks up a phone book back in the day when there were phone books. He picks up a phone book, opens it up to a random freaking page. He just dials the first number he sees. Hello, this is so-and-so plumbing company. Hi, yeah, this is so-and-so, and I represent Rich. And Rich, he's an entertainer. We were wondering, like, do you guys have any entertainment that you need for a company party or anything, Christmas party or Halloween party, anything like that, New Year's Eve? Oh, no, actually, no, we don't do that. Okay, thanks. Click. Goes to another page. Hi, I work with an entertainer named Rich, and he goes through the whole thing. Do you guys have any entertainment needs or anything like that? Oh, no, sorry, we don't need any. Okay, click, bam. Goes to the next person. After about like 10, anywhere between 10 and 15 calls, he got someone who's like, oh yeah, actually, we do have a Christmas party, and yeah, we bring in entertainment. Like, who's this guy that you're talking about? Can you send us some information on him? Like, what's his website? And so they get into this whole dialogue, and he booked a friggin' gig. And I'm like, what the hell? Here I am struggling my ass off to get booked. This dude opens a freaking phone book, dials a random number, and just talks his way into a gig. And that was the moment when I realized I got to get good at this business stuff. And I realized that the number one way to get booked is outreach. That is the number one way. You have to learn how to actually reach out to people if you want to get booked. Outreach is how you get booked, whether it's a cold call, a cold email, it doesn't really matter, but outreach is how you get booked. It's the fastest way to reach somebody. And so what you have to do is you got to get your system set up. If you're going to do outreach, whether cold email, cold calling, you got to get your system set up. So I'm going to show you the systems that we get set up for the speakers, systems that I got set up. I'm going to show you the system. And then if you have to pause this video in order to like follow along with your CRM and all that sort of stuff, then go ahead and do it. So first things first, you need your website. I mean, I'm not going to go into like a good website or anything like that, but you got to have a website, because without a website, everything else is useless. So your website is going to sell your presentation. It sells you as a speaker. So you got to have a great website. I'm not going to go into this, but let's just understand that's the foundation of everything. Now, after you have a great website, you got to buy a CRM. Okay. A CRM, it systematizes your business. If you don't know what a CRM is, Google the damn thing. Okay. I'm not here to educate you on what a CRM is. I mean, it's just simple business stuff. So just Google the damn thing, to be honest. So buy a CRM. A CRM, it essentially is going to help you like know how often you should be contacting events. It's going to help you know which events are more likely to pay speakers. It's going to help you keep track of all the events. A CRM is going to help you with your entire business. It's going to help you just stay organized. It's going to help you with all the stuff. Like, how often do I contact the events? All right, is this event more likely to pay? It's going to help you keep track of all that sort of stuff. If you can keep track of your business in your head, you don't have a business. You should not be able to keep track of you doing all this outreach stuff in your head. That's a simple fact. If you can keep track of you sending out a few emails in your head, that means you're not engaging in enough activity. You're not doing enough. And so you should not be able to keep track of this in your head. That's why you need a CRM to do it all for you. Okay. So CRM is really, really going to help you out. So without a CRM, you have a hobby. That's just a simple fact. You have a hobby. So you need to go buy a CRM. It's not that expensive. They're like $10 a month, or some of them are free, like HubSpot is free. But without a CRM, you're a scrub. That's just a simple fact. So what CRM should you buy? Well, it doesn't really matter. CRMs are like cell phones. They all basically do the same thing. It doesn't matter if you have an Android phone, an iPhone. It doesn't really matter. They all basically do the same thing. There are small differences between each of them, but once again, it's like a cell phone. They're all basically the same. So you need to understand that being afraid of spending money is going to stop you from making any money. A lot of people watching this, you don't want to go buy CRM. I guarantee you, despite me telling people how important a freaking CRM is, I guarantee you some people just will not buy a CRM. They will still try to do what they've always done, and they will not get any results because they're afraid of spending money. Whether it's $10 a month, $15 a month, doesn't matter. If you're afraid to spend money, you simply will not make any money. Spending money, it creates this investment, this mental investment inside of your head that gets you more serious about the things that you have to do. So if you spend money, I guarantee you, you're much more likely to make money. And this happened when I was building a personal brand. I wasn't willing to spend money on advertising. The second I did, freaking $93,000 in a month. Okay. So you got to get to a point where you are not afraid to spend any money, whether that's money on your CRM, whether it's money on advertising. You can't let fear of spending money stop you from making any money. So just understand that a lot of people just being afraid of spending money is just going to stop you from making any money. So you buy a CRM. What you're going to first do with the CRM is you're going to customize it. Now, this is like the mobile view. I pulled this up on my phone, but what you're going to first do inside of your CRM, you're going to customize it with these main categories here. You're going to put in what's called a sales cadence. You're going to put in a lead score. You're going to put in the name of the event, the date of the event, the lead source search term, and the previous speakers. I'm going to explain what each one of those are, but you're going to essentially, these are the things that you're going to add to your CRM. So the CRM is already going to be populated with certain things like the name, their website. It's already going to be pre-populated with those things, the basic stuff like location of their business, stuff like that. But what you have to do is you have to insert these 6 things into the CRM. And once again, every single CRM is a little bit different in terms of how exactly you're going to do that. But somewhere in the settings, you're going to go to the settings. You're going to put you're going to type in customize fields. That's what it's called. Customize the field. And then with each field, you're going to add in the sales cadence, the lead score, the name of the event, the date of the event, the lead source search term, and the previous speakers. So the sales cadence is essentially telling you how often you need to follow up with events, like how often you need to contact the events. So when you put in the sales cadence, you're going to say okay, on day 1, I'm going to send out email number 1. I'm now going to wait a few days, and if they don't respond on day 4, I'm going to send a follow-up. I'll wait a couple more days. If they don't respond, I'm going to send my pitch email. I'll wait 6 more days, and if they don't respond, I'll send a follow-up email. I'll wait a few more days, and I'll send a follow-up email again. I'll wait 3 weeks. I'll send another follow-up, and I'll repeat. And so your sales cadence, what all it does is it tells you when you need to send your emails out or when you need to call. It can be emails or phone calls, it's up to you, but you're reaching out to these events. So the sales cadence is just so you know where you are with each event you've contacted, how often you need to contact each event. That's what the sales cadence is doing. So that way you don't say, well, when do I follow up? I don't know when to follow. I contact them last week. Well, when do I contact them again? You shouldn't be asking yourself that question. That's the purpose of your sales cadence. Your sales cadence is telling you that. Your sales cadence is saying, okay, you look at in your CRM, you see that you contact them last week. Okay, here's where you are in your sales cadence. So now you just have to wait 4 more days before you contact them again. That's what the sales cadence does. You should be creating systems in your business. Anything that's repeatable, it should be systematized. So that's your sales cadence. It's one of the first things you create. The next thing you create is a lead score. The lead score is going to tell you whether or not you're pretty sure about this event booking you, and you're pretty sure about whether or not this event hires speakers and whether or not they pay speakers to begin with. So lead score is going to it's like you're check marking things off. So 300 plus event, you know that there's going to be 300 plus people there. You know that they came to you, meaning that they sent you an email. Hey, we want to hire you. So 1,000 plus event. So little things like this. So 1,000 plus event, you know that they have a big budget. So little things like that, or they want to hire you now. They indicate that an annual event, so you know that it's every year. All these are positives. Then down here, I didn't get into all the negatives, but the negative lead score is like, okay, they just want someone. They just want a speaker. So if they just want a speaker, that just means you're competing with other speakers. So if another speaker goes lower than you, then they're probably going to hire that speaker. So that's like a negative lead score. If it's a seminar or conference, that's a negative lead score, because seminars and conferences, they don't pay speakers. The mindset is very different than an annual employee event. Things like where they have a call for speakers, like an RFP. They say like, fill out this form and all that sort of stuff. That's a negative lead score, because it tells you that they're less likely to actually hire speakers. So the lead score, and this is something that we have inside of our program, like all that sort of stuff in terms of lead score. But the lead score, all it does is, as you're talking to the event, so as you're emailing them or calling them on whatever it is you're doing with outreach, I always say email is better, but as you're emailing them, you're check marking this stuff off. You see that their event has 300 plus people or 1,000 plus people. You see that, oh, this is a seminar. Okay, you check mark that off. So imagine if I'm checking stuff off and I see, okay, there's going to be 300 plus people there. It's a seminar. They have a call for RFP. They have a call for speakers, and what else did I put there? Oh, they want someone. So if I see that it has these negative lead scores and then like one positive, it tells me something. It tells me don't follow up with these people all that much, because they're less likely to hire you. They're less likely to pay. On the other hand, if I see this event over here has 1,000 plus people, they definitely like they came to me, and it's an annual event. It's an annual employee event. I know, okay, let me follow up with them more often, because they're more likely to actually pay. So that's what the lead score does. It gives you all that information. That way you're not wasting time on these guys and you're spending more time on these guys. So that's the first thing, one of the first things you want to do inside your CRM. You set up the sales cadence and you set up the lead score. Now, after the lead score, you get very basic in terms of the name of the event, the date of the event. Those are self-explanatory. If there's a name of the event, you put in the name. If there's a date of the event, you put in the date. This is actually, so the name of the event is, you use that because when you send out email number one, the email number one is a template. When you send this out, it's going to pre-populate the template. It's going to say hi. It's going to insert their first name. I was wondering who hires the speakers for your, and then it inserts the name of their event. And that's why you put in the name of the event there. So that way, this is like a whole other video in terms of how to do this, but that way you have that template, and then it just sends out, it can send out a ton of emails all at once to these people. And then eventually you'll customize, which we'll talk about in just a second. But those are self-explanatory in what it is you're doing in the CRM. Now, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to put in the lead source search term. You're going to customize the CRM to have that. All this is when you go to, let's say like Google, or when you do some type of search for an event, you need to know exactly what you typed into Google. So if I know that I go to Google and I type in award banquet, and then I type in conference, and then I type in sales conference, and then another one I type in college directory. I'm typing all this in. I'm building up my list of leads for events that I want to contact. And let's say over time, I'm getting booked. Over time, I go back and I look at the events that booked me, and I see that 80% of them have the keyword award banquet, like, because I took notes in the lead source search term. 80% of them have award banquet. Well, what is that going to tell me? That's going to tell me spend more time contacting award banquets, or spend more time contacting galas, or whatever search term is in there that events tend to hire me more often with. I'm now going to contact those events, or just search for those events more often, versus the events that I lost, the events that aren't going, and I see that these events are seminars. Well, I'm going to contact them less often, if at all. So that's what the search term is going to help you with, in terms of like, who exactly do you contact? Now, you're also going to have the previous speakers. The previous speakers or speaker, it's simply going to tell you in terms of what their budget was. That's really that's going to be a huge indicator in terms of their budget. If I know that they brought in Tony Robbins last year, I know for damn sure they can afford $30,000. Like, I know it for sure. On the other hand, let's say they bring in John Doe. If I don't know who John Doe is, I will do a Google search on John Doe. I will look, see, is he on any of the Speaker Bureau websites or whatever. I'll look him up real quick, and I'll see well, what's his fee range? And I'll take the Bureau's websites with a grain of salt, because even like right now, I'm on some Bureau websites, but they have my fee range from like freaking a decade ago or something. And so I'll take it with a grain of salt, but it still gives you an idea. And so I'll look at that. I'll look at their website and I'll see, okay, does their website look good and all that? It'll give me an idea in terms of what the event's budget is, what it was last year, because it's going to be very similar to this year. So that's why you have the previous speaker there. In terms of the customizing the CRM. So remember, you're doing all this in your CRM. So let's go back. So that's one of the first things you do in your CRM. You customize those sections. Now, as you contact the events, you're going to fill out the information in your CRM. So as you're sending emails, you're filling it out little by little. So in the beginning, okay, you got the website, the sales cadence. You're saying, okay, day one, we're now going to send out the email lead score, anything that you know about it, whether it's 300 plus people, it's an annual event. As you're contacting them, you're filling this out. You're not filling it out like immediately. It's not like you found an event and then you try to fill it all out immediately. It's more of as you're talking to them, you're filling it out little by little. So that's how you do that with the CRM. Now, what you're going to do inside of your CRM is you're going to put the email templates in place. So your email templates, I mean, you should have email templates for everything. I mean, like in terms of when people say we don't normally pay, or when they say fill out this RFP, when they say we only hire industry speakers, you should have email templates for everything. When they say like, we're not interested, you have email templates for it. The email templates, once again, people's reactions are very predictable. It's the same. You send out an email, they react in a similar way. So you should know how to respond in that way. The email templates, by the way, there's too many. We put them inside the SpeakPro Academy. By the way, I will be selling you the SpeakPro Academy, speakproacademy.com. It is our speaker training website. So I will be telling you to buy that at the end of this in case you didn't kind of get the clue here yet. But so yeah, like there's a lot of email templates that you need to have in play. You need to have an email template for everything. So I'm gonna tell you guys the first email template, but just understand, put your email templates inside CRM, just copy and paste them, put them in the CRM. The next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna actually create the sales pipeline. The sales pipeline is simply the process that you go through to get the gig. So you're doing this process every single time, 100% of the time, with every freaking event. Every single time. So an incoming lead, the pipeline goes this. It goes incoming, questions, quote, contract, closed. Those are the steps. Incoming lead. Then you go on to questions. You ask questions about the event. You then quote your fee. You then send the contract, and then you close the gig. That's your pipeline that you go through each and every single time. 100% of the time. Do not go off this pipeline. I'm telling you, I'll pimp slap you. It's a virtual pimp slap if you go off this pipeline. Like I'm dead serious. This pipeline, you need to do it every single time. Here's how the pipeline works. Okay, so an incoming lead, they expressed some type of interest. So let's say you send out email number one, you pitched them, they say, well, what do you charge? Or send us your information, or we'd be interested, but our event isn't until next year, or whatever. And so there's some type of interest. Basically, they didn't ignore your ass, and they didn't just flat out say no. So an incoming lead is where they express some type of interest. This doesn't mean they're going to hire you. This is just a very beginning stage. They're not going to hire you. They're just expressing some type of interest. When they do that, you now put them into the pipeline stage of an incoming lead. So that's the first thing. Then after that, you're going to ask questions about the event. You're going to say like, well, how many people are going to be there? And you're asking questions about the event. Like when exactly what date, like what time do you need us? How long, 60 minutes? Who was a previous speaker? You're asking all these questions. Now you need to make it a template, because the questions are going to be the same each and every time. So you make it a template. Once again, this is one of the templates inside of our programs, but you need to create your own template if you're not a member of the SpeakPro Academy. After that, so remember, it goes incoming, questions. Now you're going to quote. So you've asked them questions about their event. You say, okay, how many people? When do you need me? How long? All sorts of stuff. Then they answer all that. Now you say, it's going to be $10,000. Who do I send the contract to? And you always want to ask a question at the very end of your email. There's always a call to action at the very end of your emails. You once again, what you're doing, so notice the question that I asked, who do I send the contract to? Notice that question is all about getting them to the next stage of the pipeline. Remember, the pipeline goes incoming, questions, quote, contract, closed. So after I quote the fee, I want to get to the contract stage as soon as possible. So I say it's going to be X plus travel, all that sort of stuff. Who do I send the contract to? And this is where a lot of speakers tend to actually mess up. They oversell themselves. It is $10,000 plus all this. It's going to be a great presentation. It's going to be really fun. They're like overselling themselves. I'm like, what are you doing? It's like, stop distracting them. Just quote your fee and say, who do I send the contract to? You get to the next stage as fast as possible. So just remember that. Okay, so after you quote your fee, you're now going to send the contract. So at this point, you're going to say things like, well, once we have the deposit, we can put it on his schedule so nobody else can book him. What you're doing is you're always trying to sound in demand. Every single time, no matter what it is you say, you want to sound as if you're freaking booked up. You got freaking 300 events a year. Like, you want to sound like you are busy as all hell. So that's what you do when you send the contract. You got to create a sense of urgency for them to return the contract, so they're not waiting a whole month to give you your money. None of that sort of stuff. You say, okay, here's I attach the contract. Once we have the deposit, we can put it on his schedule so nobody else can book him. We need the deposit by next week or whatever, or 2 weeks from now. And so you do that. You send the contract. After that, it's a matter of actually closing the gig. And so this is like a little side note I put in here, like wording, it matters a lot. In fact, I mentioned this earlier in terms of sounding in demand. You have to make it sound like you're always choosing them, not the other way around. So it's not like they're picking you as a speaker. You are allowing them to be on your calendar. You don't say that, but that's the vibe you need to create. You need to, like, literally, so I joke about this, but back in the day, I had a thing like, WWJD, what would Jesus do? Well, my thing was WWTRD. What would Tony Robbins do? And so as I was talking to events, I thought, how would Tony Robbins say this? Like, what would Tony Robbins say? Tony Robbins, this mofo's in demand. Like, what exactly would Tony do? Like, how would he word this thing? Like, Tony wouldn't be like, yeah, I mean, if you can please hire me, I would really appreciate it. He wouldn't say it like that. He would sound really in demand because he is in demand. And so I was like, WWTRD, what would Tony Robbins do? And so that really helped me out a lot in terms of sounding in demand. This is one of the hardest things for speakers to do, to sound in demand without kind of going overboard, because either speakers don't sound in demand, they sound like a scrub, or they go overboard and it's like they're trying too hard to sound in demand. So people immediately know, yeah, this dude's faking it. And so it's really hard. You got to be like in the middle with that. But just remember that wording, it matters a lot when you're doing all this stuff. And then at the very end, it's close. Like, did you get the gig or not? And this is where you're going to take notes on the gig. Like, did you get it? Why did you get it? Did you not get it? Why don't you think you got it? Should you send the contract, or should you contact them next year if you didn't get it? So like little things like that. Once the gig is closed, you're going to take some notes on the gig, and this is going to help you out inside your CRM in terms of like, should you do this, that, or like how you're going to change things in the future. So remember, it's incoming questions, quote, contract, close, and you follow that pipeline every single time. You're trying to push them through the pipeline so you can get all the way to the end and get the gig. So the entire sales process, it looks like this. So at the very beginning, prospecting, I'll show you how to find the events in just a second. You're finding the events. After you find them, you put them into the CRM and everything, you're sending out email number one. Email number one is what I mentioned earlier. All you're doing is you're basically saying like, who hires the speakers? So you say like, hi, John, I noticed your XYZ event. I was wondering who hires the speakers for that event. That's email number one. And then if they don't respond, you follow up. If they do respond, you pitch. If they don't respond, you follow up, and all this sort of stuff. And then this is the whole process. So it's email number one, then your email pitch is basically like, why you? Then it turns into an incoming lead when they say like, well, what do you charge? Then you ask questions about the event. Okay, well, tell me more about the event. Then you quote the fee. Then you send the contract. You close a gig. And notice that each one has like a follow-up section. So it's like you're asking questions about the event, but they don't respond back. You now need to have a follow-up email template for that. If they don't respond to that, you have a follow-up email template for that. If you quote your fee and then they ghost your ass, you're like, it's $10,000, and bam, you never hear from them again. You follow up and you keep following up. You follow up. You have email templates for all this stuff, because remember, the cycle, it's repetitive. It's the same thing over and over. You're sending out you're doing the first point of outreach, email or call or whatever. If they don't respond, you're like, okay, it's happened before. And because it happened before, I know exactly what to do now. And so you have all these email templates in place. Nothing should surprise you. Absolutely nothing. So this is what the whole sales process looks like. You can screenshot that if you want. At this point, you've customized your CRM. Okay, you've got your sales process set up. Now what? You haven't actually contacted any events. You haven't found any events, but you got this process set up. You went to the CRM. You set up the sales pipeline. Remember, incoming, questions, quote, contract closed. You've already customized the CRM in terms of the fields like the sales cadence, the lead score, and all that. Now let's talk about this green part. Okay. So the green part is, it's all about finding events. So you've customized your CRM. You haven't talked to any events. Now you have to find events. And how do we find events in any industry? It's really simple, to be honest. Most speakers, they tend to wake up every single day asking like, how do I find gigs? And they're like, how do I find gigs? I don't really know how to find gigs. Do you know how to find gigs? I'll just do referrals. All right. Okay. Referrals. Cool. That's great. Yeah, but I still don't know how to find gigs. A lot of speakers, they go based off of referrals because they don't know how to actually build a business. They don't know how to find gigs themselves. So they kind of just hope and pray that a referral comes to them. What you need to do, you need to know how to find events in any single industry. So you shouldn't be waking up every single day asking, how do I find gigs? So what you do is you're going to put everything into a document. Once you learn a method of finding gigs, you put it into a document. I use Google Docs, but basically I'm going to show you some different methods, but you put it all into a document. What happened, and this is what happened to me before, is I had different methods of finding events. Then all of a sudden I wake up the next day and I'd be like, well, all right, well, what's really another way to find events? Like I couldn't really think of all these different ways. And so what you have to do, once you think of a way, like I'm gonna show you how to do it with Hootsuite and all this sort of stuff. Once you see a way, you put it into a document. That way you wake up, you open that document, you see all these different ways to find events, and you just pick one. You're just like, let me do it this way today. And that's what you do. It's all systematic in terms of what it is you're doing. So put it into a document. And you're gonna put like everything into a document. I already said that. I don't know why I repeated that here, but yeah, put everything into a document. So if you go to speakinglifestyle.com/finding-speaking-gigs, you're going to see there's like 22 different ways to find events. I just listed a ton of different ways you can use to find events. It is the most detailed thing you will ever see in terms of finding events. Like I said, I am extremely strategic about this stuff. So I came up with really simple ways to find events, and it's not like, oh, ask someone you know. It's not like that. I'm talking about some serious ways. So go to that link. You'll see the different ways to find events. Copy that thing, put it into a document. Bam, you should never, ever, ever say, how do I find events? You literally copy that from the website. You should never, ever say, how do I find events? Because that is exactly how you find events. So let me give you an example of a couple different ways. So this is one of the things that I would do whenever I was at a hotel. I would always go to the actual board. And the hotel, they have these the boards where they list the meetings going on for the day, and I would just take a picture of it. Like I would just go there and see, okay, what is this? 109th annual session of the National Baptist Congress. Okay, cool. I would just take a picture of that. And then I would literally just take a picture of all the events that are going on. What does this tell me? Well, it tells me that event actually does a lot of they do events where they probably bring in speakers or whatever. They at least pay because they're there at the hotel. So that is now a lead for me. And I don't know if they pay or not, but it is a lead at this point. So I would go to all these hotels. I just snap pictures of all their meetings. I'd be like, okay, bam, lead, bam, bam, bam. So that's one of the things that I would do. And so the other way is I created a Hootsuite stream. So what I would do is I would go to Hootsuite, sign up to them, and then you essentially create all these keywords from Twitter. So I would go to Hootsuite and I would type in keywords like award banquet, award celebration, event profs, meeting profs, keynote speaker, and all this sort of stuff, and things would pop up. So it would pop up in terms of, like here it says dinner banquet, the mayor, Mr. So-and-so, blah, blah, blah. So now I would copy that and I would paste it into Google and I would look for that event. And then I would put that event into the CRM. Okay, bam, we're good to go there. What is this? No, parents and careers, welcome to this event. So I would now copy that, paste it into Google, look for it, bam, and I'd put it into the CRM. So this is like a way to have like a huge list of events pop up that people are posting on Twitter. They're saying like, hey, I'm at this cool event. So that's one of the other ways I would use to find a lot of events. The main way that I would use and still use to find events is using Google. Like that is the main way in terms of finding events. You just go to Google and you type something in like sales conference or award banquet or whatever. And I'll go to the image section. So you can go to the all, but I would go to the images. That way I can actually see how big these events are. So I see, okay, whoa, these events look pretty big. I would then click on the link to the website, go to the website, and I copy and paste it, put it into the CRM. So I would use Google image search all the time. here's the thing. If you can't find events, you're just not thinking. Like, you're literally not thinking. So like, if you go to Google, you type in award banquet, there should be a gang load of events that pop up. But at the same time, you can go to the right part where it says like tools, and you can click on any time, and you can now change the time. So you can change, like, I only want to see the past week of events. I only want to see the past month, the past year. Create a custom date range, the past 2 years, whatever it is you want. But all you truly need to find events is Google. So that link that I gave you, the speakinglifestyle.com finding-speaking-gigs, there's like 22 different ways. I'll tell you right now, the only way I use is Google. I came up with all these ways, but still I'm just like, Google. That's it. So finding events, honestly, it's really easy. People think it's hard, but it's really easy to find events. Now, what you're doing is you're building a database of these events. So when you find an event, you go into your CRM and you put in the information in your CRM. You put in the name of the person. You don't fill like all this out. There's no reason to fill all this out immediately, but you're going to put in like the name. You're going to put in an email address, and then just very basic stuff. But you're going to build up a list of events. That's what you're doing in the very beginning. You're not contacting them yet. You're just building up a list of events. If you do this right, here's what's going to happen. This is Dave. I mentioned Dave earlier, where he did like $250,000 in a year. So he noticed, he was like, look, in the past 12 weeks, I booked at least one gig each week, and even had weeks of $16,000 and $18,000 in 1 week. And so if you do this right, that's what's going to happen to you. You need to know how to find these events. We're going to talk about how to contact them, but you need to know how to find the events first. And like I said, Google, and even with the keywords. So let's say award banquet, what you do, you put all that into a document. Once again, the documents, all that stuff is inside of SpeakPro Academy. So if you're not a member of SpeakPro Academy, you're going to be creating all this stuff yourself. So what you're going to do is you're going to say, okay, what are some keywords that I can use in Google where events are going to pop up? So if you're a leadership speaker, you can type in leadership event. You can do things like that. You sit there and you say, okay, what are some gala, award banquet, and you put all this into a document. Remember, all of it into a document. So then you wake up every single day, you know, okay, today I'm going to find events using the keyword award banquet, or using the keyword gala, or using the keyword colleges in Missouri, whatever. So you put it all into a document, and then you will be good to go in terms of knowing exactly what it is you need to do. So what you're doing is you're basically here, like you're at the very beginning stage of the process. You haven't contacted them. You're simply prospecting. You're building up a list of events that you can contact. That's where you're at this moment in time. And so you just got to remember that you got to have this process. Getting hired it's a process. So which events pay speakers? And now this is the wrong question. It's kind of like, well, how do you know which events pay speakers? I hear this all the time. Everyone keeps saying, well, how do I know they pay though? Like, all right, so I'm searching for these events, but how do I know they pay? Let alone, how do I know they're going to pay me? Well, here's the thing. It's a really bad question to ask. You shouldn't be asking, how do you know? It's more of, how do you find out? That's the right question to ask. How do you find out which events pay? There's a big difference. It's not how do you know, it's how do you find out. I hope you guys get the difference. Contacting is finding out. It is finding the events. So what you're doing when you contact the events is you're qualifying them by contacting them. So let's say, like, and to me, this is like, it's absolutely crazy how speakers, they'll look at an event and they'll try to dissect it. Like, oh, is this an event that'll hire me? Oh, do they pay? They're looking at it. I'm like, why are you doing that? Just freaking ask them. Like, why are you wasting your time? Ask them. It would be very similar to you, a guy seeing a girl and sitting there saying, I wonder what her name is. She looks like an Ashley, but the way she walks is like a Sarah. I mean, I don't really know. And it's like, go up to her and ask her. Just say like, hey, I was wondering, what's your name? Like, it's a lot faster to do that. And so that's how you want to think in terms of the events. You got to ask them. So contacting them, talking to them is qualifying. It is finding out whether or not they pay. So finding events is really easy, but getting hired is hard. There's a difference. Finding events, easy. You do a Google search. Getting hired, you go through the entire process of contacting them, talking to them, all that sort of stuff. So like here in the beginning, this a member where she was like, hey, where was the first email? Okay. Yeah. So she was like, I'm about to shiznit my pants. I need your help to post it on Facebook. Okay. So basically, yeah, she contacted them she found the event, contacted them. Now it's kind of like, well, what exactly does she do next? Because she contacted them. They said this. They were like, we love to keep you in mind for our event. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, basically we're really considering it. And she's like, well, oh, shiznit. Like, what do I do now? What do I do? They're interested. What do I do? So understand that getting hired is hard, but finding the event is really easy. So you gotta learn how to get all the way to the end. The process, let's talk about the process for getting hired. So finding the events, I already went over that, gave you guys a list that you can download, all sorts of stuff. I already went over that, but how do you actually talk to them? Like what exactly do you say? And how do you get hired? Like how do you get gigs consistently? Because it's one thing, anyone can get a speaking gig. I mean, you just get a speaking gig through a referral or whatever, but to get gigs consistently, to do one per week, I mean, to do it consistently at $10,000 or more, that's a whole different story. So how do you actually, what's the whole process for that? You don't actually know if they pay, so you simply ask them. That's all you're doing. In the very beginning, you ask them. So if you do this right, like when you ask, this is what's going to happen to you. So he was like, this is Mike from the group. Mike was like, look, I'm floored by the response from email number 2. Several people are asking questions about the nature of my services, and most of them are asking about price. He's like, look, totally stoked by a response I got this morning, but wanted to check with you before leaving too soon. Okay. So basically he sent out our email templates, and then bam, he got a gangload of freaking responses. It's because you just need to know how to ask. Most speakers don't know how to get hired. So they tend to do things like create content, they do live streaming, they write a book. They basically do things that don't actually get them booked on a stage. They just do things that are easy. They do things that they think they should be doing, but they're always the wrong things. It's like, create all the content you want. I'm telling you right now, will not get you booked on a stage unless you're like a freaking celebrity speaker, which means you've probably been creating content for 10 years. And so you just got to understand that most speakers, they don't know how to get hired because, or they don't know how to get hired. So they end up switching over to things like, let me do live streaming, let me create a podcast, let me write a book. And then before they know it, they've been doing it for a year, 2 years, and still they're not getting on a stage because, like I said, you have to do outreach in order for this to work. So in order for you to fill up your calendar, what you're doing is you're reaching out to events. So it's like here with Will, he said, hey, thank you, Benji. I've been using the email sequence that you recommended, and I booked 2 keynote gigs last week. The best part is how I'm now confident in what to charge and all sorts of stuff. So what Will did, he simply used the process. Remember I showed you the pipeline. Where is it? So I showed you this. He simply used the process. He's like, all right, email number 1. If they don't respond, I'll follow up like this. Then email pitch and so on. He simply walked through the process. That's how he's able to do what he did. So what you do is you start with email number 1. Email number 1, like I said, it's really simple. It's just, hi, John, or insert their name. Hi, John. Hi, Jane. Hi, Mike. Hi, whoever. Hi, so-and-so. I noticed your XYZ event. I was wondering who hires as speakers for your event. And that's all. It's like saying hi to someone. So that's the first email. This was Shikuma who sent this. So he changed it up a little bit. I recommend you guys don't change it, but he changed it up a little bit. And she was like, hi there. I would be the person to speak with. That's what you're trying to get. That's a simple response you're trying to get. You're not trying to get them to pay you from the very get-go. You're not trying to pitch yourself and just say like, I'm the greatest speaker in the world. I'm doing this and this, 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 this. Oh, go check out a website and all. Like, you're not doing that in the first email. It would be very similar to you walking up to a stranger and just spitting off a ton of different things. What you do when you walk to a stranger, you say like, hi, how's it going? My name is Benji. And that's it. That's the first email. And so some of you guys, you do need to speak for free. So instead of saying who hires speakers, what you do is you say who brings in the speakers. Because when you say who hires speakers, you're implying that they're going to pay. But when you say who brings in speakers, you're implying that you can speak for free. And so some of you guys, you need to speak for free. So if you need to speak for free, make sure you say that. What's going to happen when you do this, you're going to get flooded with responses. So this is like Trish. She sent this email out, and she sent email number 1 out, and then she sent me this. She's like, look, you're probably asleep right now. So I sent out the first email. Suddenly I'm seeing notifications of them being opened, and I'm already getting replies, some autoresponders, some answers, some dead email addresses. I hadn't expected my inbox to light up so quickly. For a brief moment, I wondered if I'd sent 54 emails to one person by accident, or if I was going to have to send 54 oops apologies. So what if I did better like next time? No, it seems to be working the way it's supposed to. Now to settle my heart rate, drain the adrenaline, and begin to personalize the second emails that was sent so-and-so, okay? So basically, she did it right, and then she got a ton of responses, but she thought she did it wrong because of the amount of responses that she got back. So if you do it right, that's what's going to happen to you. Okay, so what they're going to do, they're going to respond in a certain way. There's only certain ways that people always respond. They say things like, oh, I'm in charge of the speakers, or so-and-so is in charge of the speakers. Or they say, it's a committee, send me your information and I'll save it. Or they say things, we only hire industry-related speakers, or fill out this RFP, or there's no response. They just ignore your ass. So there are only a certain amount of responses that people have when you send out emails and when you're reaching out to them. It's just a natural response that people have. And once again, you need to know how to respond to each and every one of these. You need to have email templates for everything. Each one of these processes, email number one, the follow-up. You have email templates for all this stuff. All these email templates, by the way, are inside the SpeakProAcademy.com, so inside of our training. But if you don't have it, you need to create this for yourself. Whenever they say things like, I'm in charge, this person in charge, it's a committee, we don't hire industry related, fill out this RFP. These are just some of the responses you'll get, or no response. You need to have an email template for all of it. That way you know exactly what to do. You should not be wondering, well, what do I say? What do I do at this point? They didn't respond. When do I follow up? Okay, they said they'll send it to a committee. Well, what do I do next? When do I follow up? You should not be asking yourself those questions. Everything is predictable. I mean, people have done this over and over and over again. You need to have a predictable system in place. And what you do is you're going to use outreach software to send your emails. So outreach software like Mailshake and Yesware, these are the softwares that you need, not inbound software, okay? Let me say this again. Do not use inbound software to do outreach. I'm talking about inbound software like autoresponders, like Aweber, MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, Infusionsoft. These are inbound softwares. It's about building an email list and then sending an email blast. That is very different than doing outreach. Outreach there shouldn't be an unsubscribe link at the bottom. It's what you're doing. It's like you're sending out a regular email. Like there is no unsubscribe link at the bottom. That's an easy way to tell whether or not you're using the right system. But you have to understand the difference between an outreach software like Yesware and Mailshake, and then inbound software like Aweber and MailChimp, things like that. They're very, very different. So just understand that part. What you're doing is you're using outreach software like Yesware, Mailshake. That way you can become more efficient in terms of how you send your emails. I'm not going to go into detail about that, but just understand you want to use those softwares. Now, when you have a process, what's going to happen is like what happened to Bob. Look, $200,000 in gross sales for the year. Okay, bam. And what is he? I'm celebrating my first 10K gig plus travel. When you have a process, this is what happens. You get booked consistently, and so you need to understand, like, if you don't have a process, you're not going to know what to do. So like, if they don't respond, then you're not going to know, like, what do I say in the follow-up and things like that. When you have a process, you know exactly what to do. It's like they don't respond. Okay, let me do follow-up number 1. They don't respond to that, follow-up number 2. They don't respond to that, follow-up number 3. Like, you have a process in place. And so most speakers, they quit too soon. They do not follow up. And this is something that Bob posted inside of our group. He was like, look, another day of variety. Got an email today after several requests of who hires entertainment. Bob is actually an entertainer, not a speaker. Well, actually, he is a speaker, but he does entertainment as well. So he's like, look, we don't hire entertainment for the conference. Kindly take us off your email list. Okay, bye. Next one. That happens that happens often, actually. Or not often, but it happens. So, okay, next one on the upside, 25 emails later, I closed and contracted a May gig today that I cold emailed 9 weeks ago. So what he did, he followed up, okay? If you don't follow up, you're not going to get booked. Let me tell you that again. If you do not follow up, you will not get booked. It's not about sending out email number 1, your email pitch. You follow up. That's how you get booked. That's why he's like, look, it was 9 weeks ago. You got to follow up with these events. The money is in the follow-up. Okay, so when you reach out, you will get bored. Let me warn you of this. You're going to get bored as all hell. It is insanely boring when you're reaching out to events. You're sitting down, all you're doing is freaking emailing. You're like, at first you're excited. You're like, you're right, yeah, I'm a cold email. This guy Benji, oh, but he told me to do this cold email. All right, cool, let's go get it. I got this email temp, boom, 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 bam, 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 bam. And then all of a sudden people aren't going to say yes immediately. You're going to say like, you're going to get a little demotivated. Like, well, instead of sending 100 a day, all right, you drop down to 50, and then you drop down to 10, and then it only makes worse when you do less. And at that point, you end up, you're like, damn, all right, well, let me write a book instead. And so you got to understand that you're going to get bored. You have to be prepared for this mentally. And so We talked in the group about how not to get bored, like turn it into a game, but that's a whole different subject. So yeah, understand when you reach out, you're going to get bored. To overcome that, and remember, don't give up too early. Like, this is why you got to follow up. Like Andy, this is Andy from the group. He says the same thing. He's like, look, quick, don't give up too early story. Keynote opportunity that started warm but cooled off fast when they said they didn't have a budget. We put an activity into the CRM to contact them a month later to make sure their needs were taken care of. As it turns out, when we checked in, they were still in need of a speaker, and they booked us. I was ready to put a punt a month earlier, but since Benji pounded the CRM into my brain and we tried one last time, we bagged a Keynote. Okay. That's what happens when you actually follow up. So when you know how to do this, that's what's going to happen. You're going to book more gigs. I can't stress this enough. The money comes in the follow-up. So you got to learn how to follow up. You got to be prepared to be bored, and you just got to know how to do the right things, okay? If they express any interest, so like any sort of interest, you say, hey, who hires speakers? And it's like, what do you charge? Send us your information. We might be interested, but our event isn't until 2030 or whatever. If they express any type of interest, what you do is you convert that lead into an incoming lead inside of your CRM. So I'm in the CRM, let's say it's a Facebook event, and they say, like, well, what do you charge? Okay, well, send us your information. We'll keep it. If they say any of that, I convert the lead into an incoming lead, because remember the pipeline, incoming questions, quote, contract closed. So the people who say, what do you charge? I know they're obviously a little bit more interested, a little bit more qualified than the events that haven't responded, or the events that were like, no, take us off your list. So I know that these people who say, what do you charge? Things like that. I know that they're more qualified, so I'm going to convert them into an incoming lead. And I'm still not done, because remember, there's incoming questions, quote, contract close. There's still a lot that has to go on in order for me to close a gig, but still it's an incoming lead. So like I said, it doesn't mean they're going to hire you. It just means that they're at this stage here, the incoming lead stage. That's all that means. So if you're not seeing results from cold emailing, it's honestly because your outreach sucks. That's a simple fact. If you are cold emailing, if you are cold calling, and you're not seeing results from it, is because you suck. It's not because it doesn't work. It's because you suck. You are simply saying the wrong things. You're saying it the wrong way. I'll give you an example from actually, this is a conversation from our group. This was the wrong way. I'm going to show you my answer to it. What I said, I may not read the whole thing in terms of what I said, because it's kind of long, but basically, here's the wrong way to do it. So he was like, okay, hi there. Are you going to be at the SEMA convention, the SEMA show? And then they said, yes. Okay. So it started out right. Remember, he said the basic email number one, hey, are you going to be there? Or we changed it up a little bit for him, because he's actually a trade show entertainer. So yeah, we changed up a little bit, but basically the first question is like, hey, are you in charge, or are you going to be there? Whatever. So she's like, yes. Now this is where he kind of went wrong. He's like, okay, perfect. I work for a trade show entertainer who can build a huge crowd around the performance booth and share your message so that you can get out in front of the most eyeballs as possible at the SEMA show. How about I have you two hop on a call and he'll tell you how he does it? And then they didn't reply. Then he followed up. He said, hi, hey, Nelson, are you ready to discuss how to bring in more prospects to your booth for the 2019 SEMA show? They didn't reply. Then he said another follow-up. Hey, Nelson, I saw your ACC Performance Product Plus. We'll have a booth at the SEMA convention, and I have a perfect entertainer for you. It's Eric. His website so-and-so. Who is in charge of guarantee the booth will have more traffic than you can handle? I'm already thinking of ideas of how Eric can incorporate some of your torque converters into his presentation, perhaps making one appear seemingly out of nowhere, and so-and-so. Let's set up a call. Please direct me to the person. Okay. So do you see like the problems with this? Now, most speakers, most entertainers, they wouldn't have followed up to begin with. So they wouldn't have followed up. But do you see the problem with this? It's subtle, but there's still a problem. Okay. So I responded inside of our Facebook group. I said, look, your pitch, it needs to be very specific to them. And then I also said, like, hi there, like, don't say hi there, say hi so-and-so, like, use their name. And I said, look, your pitch, it needs to be very specific to them. After he said yes, you need to get them to visit your website to see what you can do. Remember, nobody believes your words. They want to see it. The goal of your pitch is to get them to go to your website, and you need to send them to the part of your website that's more like a sales page case study. And this is something that we personally talk about inside the group. Most of you guys reading this, you won't need to do that part, but it's just specific to him. I said, but in your pitch, you would talk about how Eric specializes in getting trade show traffic to their booth, and they can see, I can like barely see it. Okay. Where was I at? They can see to the booth. They can see an example here, www so-and-so. Remember, it's all about getting them to the website. The website is going to close them on the phone call. Then give them an example of how you would do it for them. This part has to be customized. For example, you say, for example, Eric will take your XYZ product and build a crowd around it by doing so-and-so. Then he will get everyone chanting ACC products to build a bigger crowd. In fact, you can see how he did it for ABC Company on his website here, or how about we schedule a call with you two and he can go into more detail. At this point, your emails still sound like you're talking at them instead of talking like a normal human being. Now that's a big thing. A lot of people, they tend to like talk at the people and it sounds weird. So you have to talk like a human being. And I said, the follow-up, are you ready to discuss how to bring in more prospects to your booth at the 2019 SEMA convention? It sounds robotic. Write how you speak. Say something like, Nelson, did you see the videos of how he got X company a crowd around their booth? I can schedule a call with you two to talk about how he would do this for your XYZ product. In fact, you don't even have to pay him until after the trade show, so you can see the leads that he gets for you guys first. Does that work for you? You can schedule a call here, then include a link to schedule a call. Then if he doesn't answer that email, call them anyways. So this is the follow-up section. Then if they don't answer that, call, then leave a voicemail. If they don't return the call, follow up with an email that says something simple like, let me go on to the next thing. So it says something simple like, Nelson, feel free to say no, and I'll stop following up with you so we can move on to others at the trade show. Eric specializes in bringing crowds and leads for trade shows, but if you're not interested in having a chat, you won't hurt our feelings by saying no. I don't want to waste anyone's time here, or we can schedule a call and he can show you how he will bring crowds and leads to your booth. A one-word answer will suffice, call or no. Thanks. You need to get them to answer yes or no to qualify them instead of wasting time following up. If they don't answer, then another follow-up. Nelson, it's me again, your favorite person. I'm going to assume that you're either really busy or you think Eric can't generate leads to your booth. For our ego's sake, I'll assume you're busy. Eric is a master at generating leads, and you can see it here on his website, www so-and-so. He got ABC Company 1 million leads each day. If you want to schedule a call, then let me know. If not, let me know either way. And remember, you don't need to pay him until after he's done. Then a final follow-up. Hi, Nelson. I'm going to assume that this is a no-go. Eric told me to move on to other booths at XYZ at the SEMA convention. I'll have him stop by and say hi. Thanks, sincerely, your favorite person. And I said, then a final follow-up. Okay. And I said, look, your last statement, your last follow-up is more of a statement, not a question. You're not asking them to schedule a call. Instead, you're telling them you're moving on. So do you see the changes, the simple changes that I made in the follow-up and all that sort of stuff? Even things like the last statement, like, hey, I'm going to assume it's a no-go. So Eric told me to move on to other guys. I'll have them stop by and say hi at your booth. So notice little things like that. Like an in-demand performer, they'd be like, yeah, fine. I'm just going to move on. We got plenty of people. I'll stop by. So the little things like that makes a big difference. And so another example is she created an opportunity here. This is another member here. And it's kind of like, do they show any interest at all? So here, Maya, what happened? She emailed them. They said, what was it? A sales conference is coming up in March. So we'll have an agenda, blah, blah, blah. The dates are tentatively set. However, senior leadership team is still working to define once we know these, I'll get back to you, blah, blah, blah. So it's like there's a little bit of an interest. It's not like they're saying no, okay? If they express any type of interest, they become an incoming lead and you continue the conversation. So if they show any sign of interest, you convert the lead and you add a follow-up date inside of your CRM. So you now say, okay, this is a great lead. I converted it. You know exactly when you're going to follow up. All right, bam, I'm going to follow up on this date. Bam, that's what you do with your CRM. If they ask, what do you charge? So you now convert them into an incoming lead. You sent out email number 1. Hey, son, who hires the freaking speakers? They're like, I do. You're like, okay, I'm a great ass MFing speaker, son. And then they're like, okay, cool. Send us your website, son. And now there's an incoming lead. And they're like, what do you charge, son? And now you start asking questions. You're like, well, tell me about your freaking event, man. And then when you ask questions, if there's no response, you follow up with them. And so that's what you're doing. Remember, you're using your follow-up templates. Outreach is all you're doing is you're sifting through your leads. You don't know anything. You don't know if they pay. You don't know if they're going to pay you. You don't know anything. You find out. And you find out by talking to them, by emailing them, by calling them. You find out by asking them questions. So when people say like, who do I talk to? I get this a lot. They're like, well, who do I email? I'm like, I don't know. Ask them. Send an email to their business, info@www.soandso.com and info@whatever.com. Send an email to them. Hey, who do I talk to about your speakers? You ask them. That's how you figure everything out. Do you guys pay? Like you ask them. That's what you're doing. So that's how outreach really works. So you're sifting through the leads. Contacting events, it's more than just copying and pasting a template. If you're copying and pasting a template, you're doing it wrong because it's going to sound robotic. It's going to sound like you're talking at them instead of with them. So what you do is you have a template to give you a guide on kind of what it is you need to say, but how you say it is where you customize it. So there's a big difference. Don't just copy and paste templates. So any repeatable process, it must be systematized. You have to have systems. You got to know exactly when you're going to follow up, what you're going to say in the follow-up, the email templates, all that sort of stuff. It has to be systematized. All this stuff is inside of our program. SpeakPro Academy, it's inside of our program. You just have to systematize it. If you're not a member of our program, then you got to create your own, but you have to systematize it. By the way, the program is either $5,000 lifetime or $2,000 per year. So I'm just going to tell you that right now, but you have to make sure that you're systematizing everything. You systematize in terms of finding the events. You know exactly what to do with that. You know exactly the email templates I use, every single response that they could possibly give you. You have an email template for it. You systematize everything. And so it's like with your lead score, you simply know which events to follow up with more often because you don't really know quality until you've contacted enough through quantity. So you don't really know in terms of like, okay, is this event a quality event? Meaning, is this event more likely to hire me? You don't really know what the lead scores are until you've kind of gone through a lot of events. When you've gone through a lot of events, certain qualities start to pop up and you realize, okay, if the event has 300 plus people, it's an annual event, they've hired someone in the past. If you know those, you know that event is more likely to pay speakers. And so this is what you're using your CRM for. This is what you're using your systems for, because your systems is just going to help you get booked more often. I'll say it again. Any repeatable process must be systematized. You need the templates. You need the documents. You need all that sort of stuff. And now obviously you need the training in terms of how to do it right, but you got to systematize everything. Okay. When you do, it's going to be like here, Kareem crushed it with the mail people. I mean, he's crushing it right now in general. The dude's all over the place, but here, like he booked the thing with the post office, got another one with the post office. Like he's booked several gigs with the post office. And I mean, honestly, Kareem's crushing it, like in terms of just a ton of gigs, but Betsy here, same thing. Look, her highest paid speaking engagement to date. And so here she's talking about she could possibly add another $12,000 to the bottom line. We got Marlon here, booked his first gig for 2020, all because they have a process. When you have a process, it's not that hard. The hardest part is making sure you're not getting bored. This is going to be the hardest part. I kid you not. That is hands down the hardest part. Here's Dave Davlin. You probably can't read this. It's really long, but it's on the SpeakPro Academy website. Go to speakproacademy.com. Scroll all the way down. You'll be able to read his story. But basically, he got to a point where he was really desperate, and then finally he got to a point where he was doing like $250,000. To sum it all up, okay, you buy a CRM, you customize a CRM the way I mentioned earlier, you find events using our document or create your own document, and you put the events into a CRM. You find the events, you put those events into a CRM, you build up a list, let's say 100 events, you build that list up, put them up into your CRM. You're now going to contact the events to find out if they pay and if they're going to hire you. So that's the basic process of the whole thing. Like you get a CRM, you customize it, you find the events using our document or your document, you put those events into a CRM, You contact those events, and when you contact them, you got to make sure you do it the right way in terms of, are you wording it the right way? If you don't word it the right way, it's simply not going to work. Like, it simply will not work. And so you got to make sure you're wording it the right way when you're talking to them. That's the main thing. And the execution is the hard part. I will tell you right now, most people won't do a damn thing. Like, I'll tell you, most people will not do a damn thing, or most people are going to do it wrong, because they're going to realize how hard the work actually is. When you start doing it, they're going to say like, oh man, this is boring. Like, oh, looking up these events is kind of boring. They're going to realize it's boring. They're going to realize it's hard. They're going to realize people don't just say yes immediately. Like, hey, would you hire me? Sure. Why not? We'll give you 20 grand. Like, that's not how it works. And so the hard part is the execution, the actual details. I mean, all that stuff, you can lay out your CRM within a day, within a couple hours. Even if you're not computer literate, you can still do it. The hard part is actually finding the events, contacting them, doing that day in, day out for however long until you actually get booked. So that's going to be the hard part. The execution is really the hard part. Doing the right things and doing things right are very different. And so it's really, really important that you understand that. Just because you cold email, that doesn't mean you're doing it right. Just because you cold call doesn't mean you're doing it right. Just because you spend money on advertising doesn't mean you're doing it right. And it's like, if you're sitting there saying, I want to be a boxer, just because you know you're throwing a punch, it doesn't mean you're doing it right. You're like this. Instead of just going straight, you're like, And so doing the right things and doing those things right are very different. You first need to figure out, am I doing the right thing? Then when you figure that out, you now start to do it the right way. So it's really, really important that you get that. The way you do it the right way is simply through training. Okay, so just keep that in mind. It's like you need to get good at little things. Like, you got to get good at managing your time. Like, when will you find the events? When are you going to contact them? When are you going to follow up with them? What if you don't feel like it? Like, you wake up, you're just like, I don't really feel like working today. Like, how do you schedule your days? Like, you got to get really good at little things like that. Knowing what to do, knowing what, and getting yourself to do it are very, very different. I can guarantee you, no matter how much I talk about outreach, no matter how much I talk about getting a CRM, most people watching this will not do a damn thing with what I just showed you. What I just showed you is basically, that is how I built a 7-figure business. That whole process, the CRM, finding the events, contact, that is how I built the entire business. I guarantee you, people are still going to be like, I got to write my book first. Oh, you know what? Well, I got to do a Facebook Live first. Oh, let me finish up my podcast. I guarantee you, most people will not execute on what I just showed you, because knowing what to do and doing it are very, very different. Doing it is very emotional. It's like you got to overcome the boredom. You got to overcome little things like that, the self-doubt. And so just because you understand what you need to do, that doesn't mean you can actually do it. And I'm here to help you execute. That's the point of the SpeakPro Academy. SpeakProAcademy.com is simply to help you execute. The steps are really easy. You find events using the documents that we have. You contact them using the templates that we have. It's really, really simple. The execution is a hard part, and we are here to help you execute. So if you're ready, join the SpeakPro Academy. So SpeakProAcademy.com, click on a button somewhere. In fact, let me just show you the back end of the SpeakPro Academy. Let me show you like some of the stuff that's inside the SpeakPro Academy, and a ton of stuff that's about to be in it as well. So let's see. Let's let this thing load here. All right, let's go. All right, let's go to the main site here. So I just got to log in to make sure I can actually see the whole thing. So let's let this thing load. All right, so let me show you guys the back end. For some reason, this wants to load slowly. So when you actually join, you're going to see the programs page. And these are like all the programs inside of it, but you're going to see the programs page. And these are like all the programs. If you're just starting, you're going to start here with SpeakPro modules. And so like, let me click on this. So open that up. There's a ton of freaking programs in here. Like I kid you not, there's a freaking ton. And then we just keep adding more. But each one of these programs does something different. So the SpeakPro modules, this is basically like starting from scratch. So if you're just a brand new speaker, it's kind of like, here are the steps that you're going to take starting from scratch. It's like pick the market, then you persuading event planners, online presence. You're going to build the website. You're going to do all this sort of stuff, finding the events. So this is like starting from scratch, right? Then over here, we have like some of the resources. Event Finder, this is the process that's really going to show you how to find and contact the events. So it's like, look, here's how you set up the CRM. So I go into more detail in terms of setting up your CRM to get ready. Then we set up like the event profile, customizing CRM, your templates, and all that sort of stuff. Here's the actual training part, like how to do it the right way in terms of like how do you find the events, like how do you get focused, all this sort of stuff. But basically like all this training, this is just like one part of the program, to be honest. And like notice here, we have everything. We have the email templates for you, your pitch templates, the hashtags, keywords that you can use. Here's a real email conversation. I just wanted to show you like what it actually looks like in real life. Follow-up ideas. I mean, all sorts of stuff. Your sales cadence, your lead score, all this stuff are the things that you're going to put into your CRM and all that. So this is basically everything. These are like the programs that are currently in here. And in fact, I haven't even uploaded the other program. Like we're going to upload the time management one and the mission and all these other programs as well. There's going to be a ton of programs that's going to be uploaded here as well. But look, this one here is going to help you in terms of building your personal brand if you want to be more of the personal brand type speaker. So this one, it actually shows you the three different things. Let's see. Let's let the thing load. Let me go back here. All right. So here we got main SpeakPro module, ebooks, authority, then they're basically, I'm telling you that there's a gang load of stuff in here. Like everything that you need is in here. And by the way, there's going to be the Facebook group as well, or not going to be, there is the Facebook group. This is where you're going to post all your questions. So here, this industry icon, it shows you how to build your online course, shows you how to build a sales process, and then how to build a freaking content machine. But even with all this, you get a ton of resources as well. Let me go to the resources. Get a ton of different resources. So let this thing load. The Facebook group. So join the Facebook group. That's one of the first things you want to do. Join the Facebook group. That way you can ask questions. We do live sessions every single Monday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. So if you have any questions, you can ask them live or ask them in the Facebook group. Post email conversations so I can actually help you out one-on-one inside the group. Here's the resources section. Look, this is how you fill out your customer avatar, contract, like all sorts of things here. Email templates, list of questions you need to ask events, the ad copy. Let's see. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff in here. Phone script, cold call script, copywriting text. So this is like text that you want to put on your website. So it's a lot of stuff. Photos and graphics. So like, let's say you don't have pictures for your website, like here. Like notice these pictures. Let's zoom in. Like notice this picture. These are pictures of events that I've done, and I just took pictures while I was at the event. And you can like, let's say you can see the room, but you can't really see anyone on stage. And so, yeah, you can actually click here and then it'll open up a thing where you can download pictures and put those on your website if you don't have any pictures for your website. I mean, basically everything. It's literally everything inside the SpeakPro Academy. If you cannot get booked from the SpeakPro Academy, you got a problem. Like you got a problem. There's everything in there. There's support with the Facebook group. There's all the training you could possibly think of. There's all the templates, the resources, even the website. I show you guys with the website. If you don't know how to build a website, I tell you, like, here's the one that we use. And then you just pick a template and bam, you just insert your own pictures and your own text. The copywriting text, I already did that for you. There's a lot of text there that you can use. Everything is there. I'm there to help you guys out in terms of getting booked on stages consistently. So join the SpeakPro Academy if you want my help getting booked on stages. The SpeakPro Academy is either $2,000 per year or it's $5,000 for a one-time fee, lifetime fee, you get access forever. We're going to be uploading programs pretty much every month, like new programs every single month to SpeakPro Academy. But like I said, if you need any type of help, you join the Facebook group, ask questions in the group. I'm going to help you out just answering your questions inside the group. We do the Facebook Live every single Monday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. So that way you can see like what's currently working. But speakproacademy.com or click somewhere, wherever the button is, here, there, up there, down there, wherever the button is, click the button, join now. And I'm here to help you out. I'm here to get you booked on stages. Hands down, my number one thing is simply, I want to make this the best investment you've ever made in your entire life, like ever. If you do what I show you to do, if you implement this the right way, it is impossible for you to not get booked. Impossible for you to not get booked. That's just a fact. So join the SpeakPro Academy, speakproacademy.com. Let's see. Oh, wait, no, is there something else I want to say? What? Oh, okay. No, there's nothing. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hard work. All right. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Yeah.